What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Ham Radio Crash Course. Welcome to Saturday. Thanks for joining us out here. Got a lot of people in the chat. Appreciate it. 150 people watching right now just to kick things off is awesome. Thank you so much. Today, we've got ICOM in the house, and we're going to be talking about MURS radios. So appreciate, not ham radio necessarily, but we might surprise you with what the usability of these radios can be. So thanks for coming out. Enjoy the memes as we get things started.
The memes are pretty fun, Josh.
Those are cool.
All right. Hey, how's it going, everybody?
Those are awesome.
Appreciate you coming out. So big thank you again for clicking on the Ham Radio Crash Course. Thanks so much for doing so. I was obviously in Hamcation last week, so we didn't get to do our standard live after chat. We will be doing that this week. So if you haven't joined us on the Discord, consider taking the link in the description to join us on the Discord. And scroll down to the bottom to live stream. There's both a hashtag text room, it's kind of like IRC, and a voice chat. So that's where you go. We'll be taking questions, not just related to MURS, but any of your ham radio questions. So if you are starting out, you're new, or you're entering into a new area of ham radio that you haven't experienced before, bring your questions on over. We got a lot of people that are really smart and can help everybody out. Hey, Christiana's in the house. I see your comment there, Christiana. Hope you are feeling much better. Hope things went well. So again, thanks everybody coming out. Appreciate it. Note here, if you want to help, there's our guest. Don't. Let me hide that for a second. That was a spoiler. Anyway, so if you want to help out the show, check out hamtactical.com. It's the merch store that my wife runs, where we have our limited edition coffee. We're down to our last couple of bags, so that's about gone. And we've got
you couldn't use a better radio in that, could you?
Where? You're not supposed to look at that, Ray. We got to update that.
Should be anything else.
Anything else. So we got a new logo for the Ham Radio Crash Course that we're going to start rolling out on our merch. The first thing that it's landing on is the beanie. So if you're interested in that, the weather's right. So go check that out. There is a baby beanie, and I mentioned this just so that people understand this is for babies. If you buy this and you are a regular human-sized person, adult, this will not fit for you. It's for babies, so keep that in mind. All right, you kind of saw our guest there, so let's just pull them in now. We've got Ray Novak, N9JA, and Mark Jordan, KE7FEP, and they're both ICOM sales managers, and we're going to be talking about MURS radio. So first off, gentlemen, how are you doing this evening?
Go ahead, Ray.
Doing pretty good there, Josh.
I'm doing great.
Good to hear. Good to hear. So we'll just dive into it. And by the way, everybody in the chat, if you at Ham Radio Crash Course, me, right, or you type the word question and you have a question in the chat, we'll take them live as we start to get them. But I'll just open it up with, what is MURS? Can you all explain what MURS is all about and why we might be interested?
Well, it's called multi-use radio service, and actually, it's newer. It was commissioned as part of it's similar to the Citizens Band, but it was commissioned in the fall of 2000. Basically, VHF. There's about 5 channels. Bandwidth varies, but I think from our perspective, we've never that I'm familiar with have had a MURS radio. So we've had GMRS and FRS radios. Ray, you might have a better history. You've been here quite a long time. Not saying you're old. I'm just saying you've been here for a little while. But it's generally license free, intended for use for recreation, but there are other applications, and we'll talk about those too.
Yeah, right on. Ray, do you have any thoughts on MURS, or maybe you can talk about ICOM's making MURS for a while?
Well, and not making MURS. This is really our first segue into this area. We have in the past done GMRS and FRS radios, and we've actually had some pretty nice spinoffs of those two products. The FRS product actually became a soldier intercom radio for the Marine Corps.
Oh.
And had a lot of success with that, just being a small, low profile product, low power. They didn't want to alert everybody, just those that were close to each other in the battlefield. So that was a very successful venture for us. We did the F-21 GM, which was our GMRS radio. But the one thing that's been difficult for ICOM in those markets is with us engineering, manufacturing, everything in Japan with our own staff, we're not the lowest price in the market.
Mm-hmm.
So that's very difficult. This is actually a product that will be offered through our Land Mobile dealers and distributorship. That's why Mark's here.
Mm-hmm.
But it is a product that is going to last a very long time.
Right.
One of the things that I've made comments before on the amateur radio side, because the amateur radio is used a lot for emergency communications. Do you want to trust your life to a $25 portable?
Right.
Right.
Pretty much.
And I mean, when I get the funny look going, well, why do you ask that? And I'm like, honestly, I value my life more than that. So
right.
I want to have good quality gear that I know can take a beating, that can take a dump in the water, in the creek, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
A flood, you grab it, pull it out, it's going to be there.
That might be a good note to make a point here. So if everybody doesn't understand, ICOM is broken up into different segments, right? Obviously, Ray, I think you've got a lot of them, amateur radio, aviation, marine, but we're talking land mobile here, right?
Yes.
The area we're in. And so that's why Mark is joining us, because that's your kind of area of expertise right now, right, with ICOM?
Yeah, so I manage the land mobile sales channel, which is, it's in the US, it's pretty large as far as the number of, service providers that we have and the scale. But I started with ICOM in the amateur radio division and actually was working for Ray. I won't say it, Ray. I won't.
Thank
I promise.
Thank you.
Okay. But I started at ICOM with Ray, and back then at ICOM, you couldn't come to ICOM unless you took your, got your ham ticket. Then worked with Ray for a long time, and then moved on to the marine and aviation side. Then moved over to Land Mobile, and then left the company for a couple of years and worked for some other. I wouldn't say they are competitors, but I did, and then came back. A year ago, I took this back over and was asked to come, and it was great because it was really good to get, reintroduced and honestly just re-linked up with, people that I'd come to know in this business and kind of grew up. I grew up at ICOM, went out a little bit, came back, and it was great to get back and work with Ray again. And we're having fun now. We're really trying to revamp and change the brand and give it really go after it hard and try to reinvigorate the brand presence in Land Mobile.
I got a question that came in the chat, and I think it's a good question to kind of tie into the next question I have for you all. And it was from Tadmeister. And he says, question, as a geologist in Wyoming, can I use MURS for work safety or even logistics in the field?
Yes.
Yeah, and then that ties in with my question of who generally are the users for MURS? I know we're going to explore some different paths of this, but generally who are buying these radios, who's using these radios?
So generally, a lot of it was pointed, and same with GMRS, points to a lot of the same kinds of customers. But let's say on the commercial side, even on the commercial business side, it's going to be, retail, hospitality, and they do, and they'll still use, VHF frequencies in hotels, believe it or not. You could talk the distribution, really not as much in hospital. I don't see as much in hospital. Usually they have, very specific things, but construction definitely on site. It's well used. Again, back to the whole concept of the durability of our product, and our product is made mil spec. It's intended to last. It's not intended to be thrown away. So it's a single buy versus multi-buy. In a construction environment is, and these are waterproof. I'll talk about the waterproof rating too, the difference between them. But that in the business realm, that's really where the value is, because there's no requirement for licensing. Usually it's a small coverage area. Over into in the consumer world, like let's just say consumers, and we can talk about the emergency preparedness part like you were going to talk about in a minute.
Yeah.
In the consumer world, outdoor. So it could be for side-by-sides because, there are adapters. We have them in the aviation side. We have headset adapters, and there are adapters that allow you to work with an intercom. So you can have group intercom, but you still have PTT. Another place, so side-by-sides, four-wheeling, hiking, camping, hunting, because of the, VHF is, propagates really well outdoors, obviously. And we all know about, the VHF properties in wide open spaces. So generally the usage, do you want me to roll into the preparedness piece, or do you want to ask the question?
Well, I will ask the question, but I want to also remind people, because I didn't actually mention it, I got to say it. I have some of the radios here with me, and we're going to walk through some of the features, because there's actually a couple of really cool ones that I think are really cool for family preparedness planning. So we will definitely be hitting that up. But
one caveat there,
yes.
Josh, go back to the photo.
Okay.
The one on the right hand side with the big screen.
Oh yeah,
that is not a MURS radio. That one is your R30 that you found, one of the last ones.
It's true. That's my beauty shot. I've got that there just so I can show off a little bit, because I'm pretty proud that I was able to get one of those. Yeah, we're mainly focusing on these two radios here, which is the VC10MR and the VC3MR, which we'll be talking about.
Chopping my head off.
I'm watching the Discord. I'm watching a Discord as well, and there actually is Mark, a customer that has a F7010.
Oh yeah.
With a question about how to program it for two-tone that they use at their station. So
yeah, he says, we have some F7010 HTs in our fire department. Where do I find the programming instructions? We're trying to program the two-tone function to open up the radio when our specific two-tone drops.
Send me an email. We can get you that information pretty easily, or you can send it. We can go to our website and just ping tech support and get back to you. But I can get it done for you.
Nice.
Either way.
So with that said, I mean, we'll go into it, Mark. I'm always interested in emergency communications preparedness, and I've picked up something from Mike Glover when I had him out to talk on the show last year called a PACE plan. It's something that Special Forces use, and it's a layered approach to communications, right? And that's kind of where this is an interesting discussion point, because, as ham radio operators, a lot of us have ham radios, but that may not be available to everyone if you are in an emergency. So what are your thoughts with MURS? And I want Ray to talk on this one too, because obviously the amateur radio aspect I think is important, and how they fit together.
Let me go first, because I'll have less to say, less to say, I'm sure. And because Ray is, an excellent orator. Really cache radios for, emergency response, because think about volunteers. Not all of them may have a license, and we already know this. So it's those that don't have a license, and it's really, outdoor is perfect for the radio, and these radios are waterproof. So really a general cache for users that aren't licensed.
Reminder too, this is VHF, UHF, GMRS is UHF, right? So
Yes.
MURS is VHF.
Yes,
so
correct.
When we're talking outdoor communications, VHF is going to function a little bit more effectively. What are your thoughts there, Ray? I know you're working the chat. I see you on the Discord talking to folks too. So
he's multitasking.
Well, I just sent the email address for Mark to the Discord.
Okay, good. Yeah, hit me.
One of the interesting scenarios to take a look at where this would come into play, and for emergency communications. A lot of ham radio operators feel that they can call the shots on when something is an emergency, and you can use any frequency, any band at any time in the case of an emergency. But one of the facts is the FCC has to declare the emergency. Not FEMA, not president, not the government or the governor.
Mm-hmm.
The FCC has to declare a radio emergency, and then will communicate what frequencies to use.
Mm-hmm.
So just having a cache of amateur radios to hand to government officials to talk on the ham frequencies, no, that's not cool. That's not something to do. And Hurricane Katrina, the aftermath of all of that, the FCC never declared Katrina a radio emergency event. Mm-hmm. So there was a lot of people illegally operating a cache of MURS radios to cover an area. And I mean, you think about all the obstacles and things to limit the propagation. I mean, all your foliage was completely blown away after that.
Mhm.
Right.
The MURS radios will be great for neighborhood cleanups, for coordinating efforts like that. And anybody that needs to communicate, even if you can see them and yell, that kind of gets tiring after a while.
Mhm.
These radios have rechargeable lithium-ion batteries, correct, Mark?
Yes.
And one of the cool things about the chargers is the chargers run off a 12-volt DC.
Yep.
So you can easily wire up a 12-volt source, solar panels, your batteries and things like that to charge the radios if you need to. And they'll charge in 2.5 to 3 hours.
Mhm. I
And
believe
what kind of battery life do you get, Mark?
It's generally, it's the 5590, but our specs, I'd say 16. I mean, because it's and that's again how much it's used. So that reduces based on, so it's 5% transmit, 5% receive, and 90% idle. So if any of that ratio goes up, that number goes down, especially on the transmit side. Receive a little bit, but obviously if you're, generating sine waves, you're going to get, it taxes the battery a little bit more. Scanning can tax it a little bit more too.
Yeah. But one of the things about it, if you are deployed, you don't have time for a rag chew. You're identifying
3 seconds.
You're identifying where you're located if you find any survivors or anything like that. So depending on your efforts, your transmission time could be very little. So
I'll pull from the website. If I can pull from the website really quick, just so people know, the V3 that we're looking at advertises, you guys have it as a 24-hour battery, and the V10 runs for 14 hours. And there is a size difference. One is a little bit smaller, which we'll demonstrate here in a little bit. So, FYI, that's pretty
16
good.
to 20 is what I'm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Varying. Yeah.
Sorry for the interruption, Ray. Go ahead.
Oh, no problem. But there again, getting the radios out for people to be able to communicate, that's the biggest thing. Mark's got some magic pieces in the land mobile side then that could be used to bridge the MURS communications over to public safety as needed, and really a true interoperability box for many different services that you could connect together with it.
Mm-hmm. I love the concept sometimes to keep it simple, and Ray, kind of you tapped into it, and Mark mentioned, after a true emergency, what's going to end up happening is you're going to walk out your door and you're going to have neighbors that, probably cannot communicate, right? Cell phones might be down, landlines could be taxed, right? Everything's already at capacity. It makes sense to have a radio that's very straightforward to use, that you can just hand to these individuals, and having a 12-volt ability to recharge it is pretty handy in this case. So that's always the thing that jumps out at me, is like, what's the most likely thing that we might all experience? California, we got earthquakes, and after an earthquake, we do, the phone lines don't work, cell phones get taxed, all that stuff. And having the ability to just communicate with my neighbors, and then potentially, in an extreme case, use my amateur radios to reach out for help or do whatever I need to do, that interoperability is kind of what makes sense in this case, I feel.
Yep.
And you know what, Josh, you point out something very important to think about, because I'm seeing a lot of comments in the Discord of people, well, we could do this, we've got that, this body does this. But when it comes down to it, your neighborhood watch group, what kind of communications do they have? What kind of planning do they have? How do you handle all of that? Yeah, all these different agencies do different things, but the thing is, they're usually not as prepared as they need to be beyond their scope of operation.
Right.
Right.
So
we all like to geek out on radios, but in reality, your local neighborhood watch probably has no interest in it other than, I need it to fill this specific function, and what is that function, and how do we make it simple and streamlined for them?
Yeah,
So,
and in the local amateur clubs that are looking at providing services, and I mean, there's so many hams out there that, hey, I carry a badge, I'm certified in this, I'm certified in that, but when it comes time to true deployment, you can't be the guys that are commanding and demanding to be part of it. You will find where you're going to get deployed. It might not be where you feel you should be, but if we get out of control and start trying to shove our way into incidences, we'll be asked to leave.
And that's happened, I believe.
Oh, I know it has. I mean, K6UD. Oh, what I busted his call. I mean, Bob went off
K6UDA.
about Bob went off about how California Fire felt that amateur radio wasn't important anymore.
Right.
Why? Because a few people got out of control. So one of the things to look at is know your role, know how you can play into it, and help.
Here's a really good question, and then we'll move on to some of these other ones I have. Stuart asks, is there a place for MURS with CERT groups, or is ham only the better option? I hope we answered that a bit, but what do you guys think?
Again, it's 2 watts. So it just comes down to your area of operation. You know, how wide is your area of operation? 2 watts of VHF, you know, our website, like, you know, a lot of things kind of gives you an idea. I mean, they put a number up based on where you're at of 10 miles. I mean, you've seen some of these GMRS claims of 65 miles. And I think that's like on the tallest hill in Kansas to some other point, you know, that's complete line of sight. So it does, it still is RF. So 2 watts have the expectation of that kind of performance.
And also you think about deployment in the situation like that. There's only so many hams in your community. Use those for your longer haul, and use the MURS radios for your last mile.
Yeah.
So you've got a very active neighborhood community involvement here. You deploy the radios to them, use the amateur repeaters for your longer distance. The last thing you want to do is have 5 or 6 people covering an area that simplex will cover, tying up the repeater the whole time. So, I mean, it's kind of like a hub and spoke type deployment.
Indeed.
Let all the information locally feed in on simplex type radios. And granted, with them being 2 watts, you can keep from interfering with each other on it.
They call that small unit tactics, right? These would be small unit tactics communication.
That's tactical comms. So it is tactical comms, because what we're talking about is group intercom. And the value of group intercom is command and control. So instant command and control. So obviously you have a hierarchy of responsibility. Somebody has to be the command and control in that voice.
Yeah.
So TAC comms. Yeah.
Now,
and there comes the military training
What I say?
Mark.
What I say? Something on my glasses? Ray's laughing.
Yeah, I'm laughing because the military training just came out in you.
Yeah. Sorry if it comes out sometimes.
I start saying words like small unit tactics, and then Mark's getting all excited.
And I go, flashback.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So there's also, you know, okay, so we're talking a couple miles range, 2 watt output, relatively simple radio. There's an obvious parallel with like outdoors stuff, off-roading, right? Your overlanding stuff is huge right now. This is great because it's VHF versus UHF in this particular instance, right? So this has different capabilities in that sense, but you know, what are your thoughts on that as well?
So VHF versus UHF, and this is, if you look at any, you know, VHF is generally thought of as a wide area kind of, you know, band because of, the propagation. So it's usually used, you know, initially, you know, there's still a ton of VHF used out in public safety and rural public safety. Still a ton of VHF analogs, a ton of VHF simplex with base stations still out there. Just because it really gets out and it's forgiving of terrain in some cases. UHF is really powerful in, you know, when you have the requirement to penetrate buildings. You've got a little more congestion as far as objects. It performs a little bit better because it's, you know, it's a little more narrow as far as, I mean, it's a little higher in the spectrum.
Indeed.
Ray?
You covered it.
Okay.
All right, so we already mentioned it's license free, so that means it's good for handing to family and friends when you're out camping or whatever. This is just across the board a value of MURS. The GMRS requires a license. Amateur radio obviously has a license, so this is something that is going to perform better than your Walmart blister pack FRS radio, which is again UHF. It's part of the GMRS frequency range. These are.
Can I point something out?
Please.
After you get done, sorry.
No, go ahead, jump in there.
Sorry, man.
No,
But I just saw it just rolling up and I want to lose it. It was like, I saw from Matthew Seaver, KM7ATT, said, first time I ever heard of MURS was on a prepper podcast at least 10 years ago. And that's right. And so we were talking about that earlier, remember? So there is a bit of that going down because you can, it can be used for really good squad comms and, tactical comms, and it still does penetrate, it still gets out if you're out. So yeah, the same here. We have seen a lot of that.
Is there external antennas that you can add to these radios? I imagine you're not supposed to make them propagate better. They're kind of supposed to remain small unit, but I imagine you can make something, right?
Oh, you can. Well, the rule is 2 watts. Okay.
Right.
But anytime that you've got connection and anything, you got loss. So you have to make up for loss. So yeah, you could toss a little gain on it, but I'm not saying that, it cannot exceed, where we're licensed at. So yeah, you can recoup your loss, and they do recommend external antennas for some applications. And that would be fine. We even do it with, AM radio in the aviation side. There's external antenna, that you can use. So yeah, and it's to get it outside the vehicle if you had to.
Yeah. Okay.
Height would help too, especially on a truck. Height helps, of course. On all
right.
Yeah.
All right. So why don't we talk about some of these radios? So I've got 2 here, which are the.
Hey, Josh.
Yes, sir.
I'm gonna have to cut out on
I
you guys.
understand. Go ahead. We appreciate
all
you,
right,
Ray,
so
for being on here.
Leave it to you and Mark. And
dude, you got 15 more minutes. You don't have 15 more minutes
with you guys.
Appreciate you being out here.
15
Ray.
minutes. Okay.
and I appreciate your group supporting us in the activity in the Discord. I greatly appreciate you guys.
Yeah, thanks everybody out on the Discord too, and all the comments. Appreciate it. But Ray, thank you so much. Appreciate you being out here. So
and there was one other comment asking when would we ever get around to having a radio that charged off of USB port.
Oh, when would we get around it?
We've got it. Don't we have it now, Ray?
Yes, you've got one.
I've got it. Yeah, actually, Ray. So I don't know if you saw that. I'll go back to my. I don't know. You notice what's hidden right?
Oh, geez.
Right there. It's it's right in there. There's the 52 hiding right behind the 10.
There you go.
I wanted to fill out the video space here to make sure we had it covered. But yeah, nice. Ray, thanks for being on. I appreciate it.
All right. You guys have a good one. I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. See ya.
Bye, Ray.
Question from Scout75, which is pretty good. I'll let Mark take this one, obviously, because you're the only one now, Mark. You're stuck with me. Is ham allowed on MURS frequencies? On an
I do not believe so.
They're not.
It's a Part 95, and it is FCC. We have to actually have the cert at Part 95. Mm-hmm. So unless that ham radio has both certs, it's not.
Yeah, I want to remind everybody, it comes up all the time, and I made a video about this. The radios are certified for the type acceptance for where
Correct.
They're going to operate. And there isn't one radio that is type accepted for all the services, right? You don't get a Swiss Army radio, right? So that's just the reality of the FCC. I will say, this is not Mark. I'm not speaking on Mark's behalf or ICOM when I say this. The FCC really isn't knocking people's doors down if they're using a Baofeng or whatever off of their type acceptance spaces. But at the same time, it could happen. I don't know. I'll leave it at that, Mark. If you want to comment, you can, but otherwise,
that hits it on the head. Okay. But we do have some dual certified radios, where we do have, like I think it was the F5061 has, both 80 and 90 in it. Mm-hmm. I don't know that we would do on this. We might have other radios that come out. I don't know that we'll do on the license free stuff. Like if we did an FRS radio, it probably wouldn't be Part 90, and if we wouldn't do that. But there are instances where we might need to, and that's usually in the marine side.
That is true. Actually, that's a good point. There are marine radios that have wider type acceptance. So
90, yeah, they've got 90 of the M88, M85, yeah. And then
we've got a fun little mock-up here. We've got 2 radios, the V3 MR and the V10 MR, and we have them set up for the show. They're doing things show related because we want to demonstrate some of this stuff. But do you want to mention anything before we start walking around the radios and having a little fun with that?
So yeah, we can do what I can talk about, like the line in general. pricing and things like that.
Why don't we do that now? That's perfect. And then we'll because there's some features here that ham radios don't have. And so I thought these would be really fun to demonstrate live. So yeah, go ahead, Mark.
So there are some cool features, and really we'll go through probably the 2 or 3 as far as on the emergency function side.
Yes.
But just remember, these are they're mil spec, which is one of the things. But the V3 is IP54, which is basically splash proof. You can, it could probably take some rain, whereas the V10 is IP67.
V10.
And what that means, V10. So that basically means it's certified to be underwater, a meter of water for 30 minutes. So it's very durable, very rugged, waterproof. Is what it's considered, ingress protected.
I think that means up to a meter, right? When you're IP7.
Meter for 30 minutes.
That's right. Yeah.
Yep. So you've got NDC, which allows you to do, select calls. It also allows you to do emergencies, because if you have MDC, that means you can put IDs on it, and you can route. You can do CTCSS. You can control who can hear at any time if you're using multiple user groups. It is license free, which has big value. There's a couple of functions that we think that we'll probably demonstrate here that are pretty cool, which there's a lone worker function, which you can set up a timer that allows you to basically require the user that has the radio to check back, at least with a PTT, for a period of time.
This is a mode that favors kerchunking. This is a kerchunking mode, right? That you want the user to kerchunk so that they know. So if you have somebody, again, hypothetical, let your mind wander with this one. If you had somebody that was out, let's say walking the perimeter, and you set this thing to a 60-minute, 30-minute squawk where they have to reach down and PTT the radio, and they don't PTT, it will start transmitting on a programmable memory channel that you set up, and it can use DTMF tones. It can use multiple things that the radio can do. And then that's the emergency beacon that it's putting out at that point.
Right. And it'll give you a couple of beeps to let you try to cut it off. I mean, but you have to make sure that you beat that period of time. Or you'll go into alarm mode. And then there's another called man down, and there's acceleration, but man down, I think is another interesting one.
Yeah.
And that basically is where the radio, you can set the position, basically the tilt of the radio there's 3 variable settings that you can set it to, where the radio, if it stays in that state too long, will again start with a progression of warnings, and then finally go into emergency state that'll transmit an emergency beacon, and basically not a position beacon, but an emergency audible emergency tone that other radios can pick up. That's a big one.
Yeah, and I immediately, so man down, we're gonna demonstrate man down. But to me, being a dad of a bunch of crazy kids, the thought of having, my son who's in Cub Scouts, right? By the way, the V10 is the one that does man down. It's the one on the right, which is a little bit smaller. I'll hold him up and do a comparison in a second. The fact that it will do man down, where if it falls over and it remains unmobile, after a given time, it will start squawking an emergency tone. And we have these to where they're scanning for priority channels, and I've got them set up. Channel 2 being the emergency frequency. By the way, MURS is limited on channels, right? There's only so many channels in MURS, but with these radios, there's 16 channels. You can have the same channels repeated on the latter, parts of the memory spaces, just with tones added, right? So you could have tone-based communication as well as just, analog. What is it? FM? It's all FM.
It's all FM.
So
12 and a half.
I love this idea for my Cub Scout son when we're going to go out and do hikes and whatnot. Throw this on him, and then you've got the man down feature that, if he takes a fall and he's not moving, we get notified about it. I love that. That's my favorite thing so far when I was playing with these.
Yeah, and it's really interesting that it's in this tier of radio, because it's actually an advanced function that's usually used in public safety. Some commercial, but really, focused on public safety.
But something that is unheard of in the ham space. We don't do this in the ham space at all, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So pricing, and remember, so I just did a little, shopping of my own. I'd say, and this is out on the street. So you can be in the 150s for the V3, and then 160s. You might find them lower, you might find them higher. But out on the street, that's about where they end up. And hey, everything's in there. So the charger, battery,
The 12-volt charger, the battery clip,
yeah, all
the
of it's in there.
clip,
Yeah.
all that fun stuff. They also have
Yeah.
a door on the side to maintain its IP rating. It does actually need that door screwed down, which these are the type of radios. By the way, I've got the programming software hooked up here that we may have some time to show off too as we get a little bit further along. These are the type of radios where you program them, right? You get them all programmed together. These are like ganged up radios, right? A cache
Yep.
radio system. You're going to have a couple of these that are all going to be programmed the same, and they're going to be scanning through their frequencies, listening for these priority channels. And if an emergency pops up, it's going to be one of these radios, right? So they can intercommunicate over voice, but then also use these man down features, this lone worker feature. I kind of like the idea. I'm going to throw some terms at you. You're going to love. You got your LPOP out there, and they're listening. They're listening observation post people, and they've got a radio
Yep.
like this, and they've got to check in every hour, right?
Yep.
And if they're not
Yep.
doing that, that alarm is going to go off.
Something's
And
wrong.
Something's
Mhm.
wrong, right? So stuff like that. If your mind starts going in all kinds of different directions with this, you can find, I think, a couple of use cases that are really value added for emergency preparedness and also just like dad life stuff, which is what I find
It is.
really interesting.
One other application, though, if you think about it, and this is kind of where some of these came from, is safety for hazardous environments.
Mhm.
So if you think about a hazardous environment, if you went into somewhere that's processing anything and there's a hazardous chemical, or there's so much sulfur in some of the water treatment plants. I mean, you have to that you're going to end up in a space where exposure for too long, you can't have it. So if you're in this space considered let's call it geofenced in this area here,
Right.
you can only be in there for so long unless you check in. That's another function.
This is a good question from Ryan. We have that function on our radios at the firehouse, but only on a specific channel. Can those do the same? You can put them on any channel on these radios, and then
Right.
you just scan. You set these radios up to scan, and then they'll just listen for wherever the activity's on, and then once it hears it, it'll start transmitting. It'll pick up the scanning tones.
Yep. And that was my point. So public safety is where these come from.
Mm-hmm. There was somebody else that mentioned they have a refiner. They would put these on people in a refinery type situation, which would be the perfect use case for this type of stuff.
Yep.
So let's throw it over the overhead real fast, and we've got a Mark right there. So I've got a dB meter as well, and we'll be looking at the chat. So feel free to drop any questions. I'm going to turn these on, and we'll do a quick little audio test, and then we're going to demonstrate some of these features. So let's do a size comparison, and I've got an ID52 here for comparison. So this is the V3 on the left and the V10 on the right. The V10 is the smaller of the... Oh, see, I got to turn this off, otherwise it's already going into man down mode. So the V10 is a bit more of the svelte radio, but the V3 has the bigger battery, right? So that's something to keep in mind. There are cradle charged, pretty straightforward. They have PTTs on the left and then 2 programmable buttons. And the programming software, which again, we can show later, that programming software is where you set those. And the V10 has the emergency button on the top.
Yes.
Versus the V3. So I thought, do you want to add anything, Mark, before I do a little audio test?
No, that's it. Take a spin on the knob of the V10, and where does it stop? The channel knob. Swing it over to 16.
16.
Yeah, spin it. Go ahead and spin it. Let me see. Just make sure. Okay, good. Yeah, so both have 16 channels, and I think there's just the grouping that changes.
Yeah, so I'm gonna turn both these on here, and I've got an audio dB meter right there. In fact, I'll turn these around.
Oh, you're gonna crank it?
Yeah, why not?
Do it.
So we'll do that. I'll step aside for a little bit. In the meantime, we also got a comment. It was from Zapman 2000 says, does ICOM offer multi-pack with multi-charge base stations so we don't have to have like 10 wall chargers plugged in? That's a good question.
They both have. There's gang chargers. Actually, here, let me look them up real quick. Everything works. So the gang charger for the V10 is called the BC214. Let's see the V3.
Mic was down here, so hold on. Test. Hello. I'll move this mic a little bit so you guys can hear it a little bit better.
Test, test, test. Can you hear? That's the sound from the V10. I'm transmitting from the V3.
Got it.
Not bad. Sounds good.
We almost did a man down test live, dropping it off
There
the
you go.
side of the radio table.
So to answer the question, yes,
Yep.
there's for both. There's a gang charger option.
Okay. So the two features that I think are the really cool ones here. Am I on or
What did
off?
we get up to audio wise? Where did we end up?
90 dB max.
Okay. Well,
And not distorted or anything like that. They sound really good. You know, they're totally operable, right, for the space that you would use them in. So that was kind of the point. So I have these on. I want to make sure everybody understands. I have them on channel 1. They're both channel 1. So call that the talk around channel or talk about channel. So if I say, you know, test, 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 hello, hello. The idea is that they would be able to talk to each other here. And channel 2, which we don't have selected, is our emergency channel. So I'm going to put this into scan mode, and they both have this feature. All right, so scan mode is now going through all the priority channels, listening. Okay, so it already started. I'm going to move the mic so you can hear what happens when it starts to go into man down. The concept of man down is that the radio,
wow.
it drops,
Feedback.
right? Oh, sorry.
There's your warning.
And now the V3
Yep.
is receiving the emergency tone, which you're hearing right now.
Yep.
And it's still on channel 1. It's using the emergency channel 2 for this information. Right? So that would prompt you that you now have an emergency situation and you need to go sort out, you know, what's going on in your man down situation potentially. So take it, you know, the idea here is that you've got to go find the person who actually went man down because they're not moving. Then you go and you find their radio and you turn it off. And that's how you reset it.
Is there a, and then generally, how would you find them? I mean, there's an audible tone.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, this also has its own audible tone that it is
Mm-hmm.
transmitting as you walk around. So the other one, Lone Worker, which they're already on Lone Worker, I believe. Yeah. Okay. So Lone Worker, we can go back to Des Wide here for that. Let's show you the wide shot. So these guys are just hanging out, right? And by the way, this is really short. We have these on a really short fuse. You wouldn't necessarily do this, but we're demonstrating live.
It's live.
It's live. So this is where you got to PTT the radio, your Lone Worker setup.
Yep, within that certain period of time, and that's all that's settable. There's the response times. You know, you have everything is configurable. What did you set it to? 10 seconds? 1 minute.
I set it to 1 minute because otherwise, when I put it in the programming software, it would take too long.
Okay.
Because if you set it to 10 seconds in the programming software, anytime you turn it on, it would start doing Lone Worker, and then you don't want to be hitting the PTT when you're transmitting. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, 10 seconds anywhere. Should we do the, let's cue the music.
Which music?
Dun, 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 dun. Yeah. So this person is just kind of hanging out, doing their job. This one takes a second. Is it really? That's how long a minute is? Should have counted.
It feels longer when you're live.
Yeah. Is that a minute? It does. We're supposed to be present and in the moment.
We did go through an emergency event, so you may need to reset these, but I did hit the, you know what? Let me do this really quick. Lone Worker, slower. That should be it for this guy. There we go. So V3 is now complaining. He's now lone workering. You can see him. He's going to go from green to an emergency squawk for emergency, and he's going to hear it on the V10, and that's what you just heard, the burp.
You can set it to infinity. You can set it to whatever. Mm-hmm.
We have it too, just to do the example, but that's the idea, is that you have it just kind of squawk out, oh, this lone worker hasn't tapped in or said, what's going on. So, yeah, what else? Let's show the software while we're at it, right? Okay. So the software is pretty straightforward. It's all downloadable off of the ICOM website, which I was playing with beforehand here. So
we really should have turned the volume up on that. It would have been much more.
Oh yeah. Sorry.
Scary. No, I'm just kidding.
That's what we want to do. We want to scare.
So we have 90 dB coming out of theirs, but how much louder could you get it out of your mic?
Oh, right.
Could we get to 120
with compression? Yeah.
Yeah, with compression.
So this is the
pull my ears out.
That's right. This is the CS V10 MR software. So again, the V10 MR is the smaller one. So this is just the example we're using. There is an audio port on the side. I'll show you that really fast here.
Oh, thanks for bringing that up. So I was going to say, yeah, maybe the audio 90 dB coming out of the speaker, but we have, options, and there's third-party options from third-party, manufacturers that build to our radio specs. So, there's plenty of options for headsets, for even, acoustic tubes. Popular ones could be the D-ring or the over ear. There's plenty of options to, enhance the audio.
Indeed. And I mean, you're also hearing it through YouTube. It's getting compressed and manipulated and all that stuff. So let's see. Question from Scout75 asks, if you have a group of radios people in the field, who would you know which one would be down? Oh, good question. How would you do that, Mark?
That's so without having a display, because with MDC you can create IDs and you can do a radio ID. Oh, it's going now. Now it's going to go.
Going off again. Go ahead.
Right.
Continue.
So that is you're kind of hitting on one of the challenges, is that you would have to do a radio check. You'd have to go back to voice comms, because there isn't a way, unless you have a display, to know the ID. Or if you want to set up an RCFS10, which is our console, and we have you can do audio through, basically go back to audio.
I know how you can do it. I know how you can do it on these radios.
Do it. What?
I'm going to tell you.
I would.
You set the emergency channel of every radio to a different channel. And
there you go.
You have them on scan, right? You have your so everybody has their radios on scan, right? And then when you hear an emergency happening, you take your radio off scan and you start going through the channels until you hear the emergency beacon. So if it's channel 5, that's Bob, right? So you this would be part of your comm plan. So it would just you'd be channelized.
Yep.
Good. That's it. That's how you do it.
That's it. There you go. Without a display, and
a screen would help.
Yeah, a screen helps.
And when we should be clear, the programming software does actually have a code. It's actually a code that it's going to transmit along with it, and I think the code goes through 0 through F, so it's a hex number. That would allow you to have, if you had a screen, you could have a channel for Bob. Right. And
yes,
there you go. How do we locate Bob? Oh, Don asked, but how do you locate Bob? Well, Bob's in Idaho. That's all I know. Bob's in Idaho.
What's the situation? So is Bob, where is Bob? Is Bob initially in a hazardous area that you already know about, or is Bob wandering the woods? Well, so the noise is, there is an audible coming from the radio, right? And an audible that you're receiving. So that there's the radio itself is alarming.
Right.
So both radios are alarming. So you're going to be walking through the woods and there is a radio out there making a beep, because you put it on infinity and it just goes until you either acknowledge or you get out to him.
I mean, you could still DF all this too. I mean, Don knows this. You could still have a Yagi and go point him out and figure out where he's at if you wanted to get to
there
that
is
level,
audible.
But you know where it's at, right? Or again, 2 miles roughly, but realistically it'll be a little tighter in than that, and you would hear their radio emergent doing the beacon.
Yeah, it's letting off a beacon, and you set it to never turn off until you get to them, and that's the point, is their radio is sending out an audible beacon.
Yeah, you cannot extinguish the emergency when you have something that's like full on emergency for that reason. You set it to be an emergency. Go find Bob. Bob's in trouble again. Okay, so let's throw it over to the software. I apologize. It's a bit tight. This is a 1080 monitor that I'm on here. It
Some
seems
font there.
yeah. Sorry, it's a little bit. I tried to blow it up, but
That's as big as it gets.
I can't really blow it up. So I apologize, everybody live. But the point of this is that if you start on the left hand side, there's a memory channel pull up, and you can see these are the channels that MURS operates on. But then you have 6 through 16 for custom channels. So if you want to do DTMF tones, etc., you can do that. Scan list is where I set that priority channel. So if you remember, channel 2 was denoted as the emergency channel. That's what you would use in this case, right? And then settings for emergency. So the V10 is the one that supports man down. The V3 does lone worker, but the V10 has lone worker and man down. And that's where you get into this man down feature here, which I have set for on timer for 5 seconds, meaning once he lays down and doesn't move, or she, you may want to bump that up. You could make it 30 seconds. Maybe Bob, maybe you need to have 30 minutes because maybe Bob likes to take a midday nap.
I was going to say, no, it should be 10 seconds. It's like if you're down, if you're horizontal for longer than 10 seconds, then you're napping. So maybe it's the nap alert.
Yeah, Greg
nap alarm.
Yeah, it's the nap alarm. Greg KD2 has a good question, and I'll pull it up on the browser source here. He's basically saying, good concept, but now you have 16 people on their own frequency and comm goes to hell. No, you still have your talk-in frequency. Everything is the same. The only thing that would be a specialized frequency is your emergency frequency. Right, when a specific emergency has happened, which you want the ability to clearly say where that person's at. So I hear what you're saying, but this is the special case of an emergency. I don't know. What do you think about that, Mark? Is that
good? Yeah.
Sound right?
Yep. Yeah, you have your operating or tactical channel, and then you can set up your emergency channel on separate channels, and then you just look back to them so you don't miss them.
It's a nap alarm. Drew Crosby, that's it. Mark,
nap
you got to
alarm.
rename the whole feature to nap alarm now. That's
Bob can't be napping.
Bob, you got to put it on
Not
Bob.
nap.
Cannot nap, Bob. So it's an incredibly simple software. The settings are pretty straightforward. Again, you can put tones on any of these channels if you want, but down in common, right, the common space, there's keys and displays, and that's where you get into your top key, which is the little red top key on the V10, the upper side button, which I have for scan, start and stop, and then the lower is lone worker. Man down works regardless. Once the radio stays on its side and stays that way for enough time, it will enter into lone worker mode.
So MDC or also there was the auto dial. There's DTMF auto dial too, right?
Yeah, we didn't play around with that. Let me
right. So this is just DTMF auto dial obviously allows you to send out the tones to do things. Command, turn your sprinklers on.
Oh.
Open a gate.
Okay.
Auto dial.
That's
you do use it to access repeaters sometimes, right? Back in the day.
Yes, but that's all within the MURS space. So you would have to have equipment that's operating on the same frequencies.
Exactly. Yeah.
Del Fargus says infantry squad ambush ruined by beeping radio in man down mode.
True.
Yeah, guys,
not so good on that. We were talking about that too. What were we talking? Okay.
I was talking about LPOP, right? You got
LPOP,
you got some guy in a forward operating position, and he starts beeping. Probably not great, but at the same time, I guess you could. Can you turn off the beeping on the man down radio and just have it transmit without beeping also on the speaker? There's a feature, Mark.
Functions, yeah.
We got to add that into the features. Hold on, let's see if we can do that.
Talking about silent mode.
Well, no, I still want it to transmit. Oh, wait. Let's see. Can I? You know what?
Discrete.
Oh, there. Okay. You know what? We're doing this live. This is why we do these live, right, guys? Okay. So under the emergency setting, man down is on. But there's an emergency setting, and it has a repeat cycle. I have it set to 10, but there is a silent. Silent is the option. So I'm going to flash that. I'm going to flash that to this radio, and we're going to test it. I don't know if that's going to change man down, but we'll see. So here we're doing a live transfer.
Not a lot of data, so it should be quick.
Not a lot of data. There we go. It's flashing. So yeah, there you go. You're
talking tactical mode.
What if now I'm getting what if this is you got a like some kind of trip, like a wire trap? Somebody walks into a space and it makes the radio fall over and it transmits a silent emergency tone.
Yeah. Intruder alert.
Intruder alert. Okay, so we did it. We did it there. So let's go back to the wide desk.
We have nap alert, and we've also got intruder alert.
We're doing it all right now. We're whole new marketing plan.
For nap alarm. I'm sorry.
Nap
alarm.
Nap alarm. Right.
Get it right.
Okay, so I'm restarting it. So it's on now. So you can see where. There you go. I'm gonna layer down. Right
see
there.
What happens.
And we're gonna turn the 3 on so we can hear it. It is on.
Let's see.
Hey, thank you, John, for becoming a member.
Uh-oh. There it is.
It didn't do the tone.
Crank it. Yeah. That's discrete
We
mode.
did it, Mark. We figured it out. So this is
Discrete
discrete man down.
Yeah.
Perfect. I was wondering, I'm like, why is it beeping? Because that's what we told it to do.
But the most important part is, your TAC ops are not,
right.
You will not be discovered.
Love it. Now, of course, then you are actually DFing your tactical, your TAC op.
But back at the talk, they're getting all these alarms.
Right, and if they have a multi-channel set, they've got all these alarms they don't do. But again, the channel is actually set. You are setting the emergency channel, and then you are actually have it to a different frequency, right?
Yeah.
If they're all ganged up the same frequency plan, then you're good. And that's how you catch Bob in the act of napping, because the radio can be beeping.
He doesn't know.
You know he's napping, so
now
that's how
we
you
really
go find
have
Bob.
Nap alarm. Okay,
That's right.
Nap alarm for real.
There you go.
Good.
Yeah, that way you don't even have to tell Bob it's a feature on the radio.
No.
He doesn't even know about man.
Bob just keeps getting caught napping.
He just keeps getting caught. He doesn't know why.
What's going on?
Mark. I think we created a whole new marketing direction for ICOM on this one.
Yeah, right. Employees won't like it, but management will love it.
Employees hate this one weird trick. Mark, this was a lot of fun. Can you tell people, like, where do they find you? Are you on the social medias? Are you doing the whole thing, or where are you
I'm on
at
LinkedIn.
right now?
Yeah, I'm not as active as Ray. Ray's
a beast.
Where does he find the time? I don't have the bandwidth like he does. I think this is it. But yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. That's where I kind of spend most of my time. I don't look at Twitter. I do have an Instagram
Good for
account,
you.
but I'm not.
Good for you,
not very
Mark.
active. Yeah.
Don't look at Twitter.
Yeah. But that's really it. Yeah. I spend most of my time on LinkedIn. And like I said, we're really focused on trying to transform the brand. So we're trying to spend our time in that space a little bit. Can come off, we're really that LinkedIn space, we're all seeing is changing anyway. There's just so much happening over there. It's really bizarre.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I love this stuff. Thank you so much for kind of introducing me to MURS and getting a chance to talk with you kind of before we started the show. And, we've been working on this for a couple of weeks now. This has been a crazy month with Hamcation, and Ray is busy as ever. I think that he's so busy at ICOM. He's got more divisions than anybody. But Land Mobile Radio is the largest division of ICOM, I understand. Is that correct?
It is. It's the largest, and obviously the largest potential because, like our firefighter friends, our police friends, even the, public works and, anybody that's using two-way radio from P25 through. We've also got some really incredible things going on in the network space, LTE, Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
So we got satellite communications. We have satellite PTT on the Iridium network. We have our own MVNO LTE service. Everything is just growing up. We've got gateways that tie it all together. I think Ray alluded to that earlier, where basically you could take these products, tie it into a radio that's sitting on our gateway, and then that could tie into LTE, satellite, P25. It could tie back into anything. We call it Connect. We can connect anything with Connect in any band.
Yeah, the folks that operate or coordinate Hamcation, they were all using your LTE radios, and they absolutely
Right.
loved them. I talked to
Right.
Michael Cowley, right? Is that right, Michael Cowley? I think that's right. And all actually, I talked to a couple of the guys. They had a blast with them because they could be separated from offside the fairgrounds at different meetings or whatever, and still be interconnected over the LTE system. Appreciate it. Got to be fair. Ham radio operators, we love our RF, but
Yes,
I
sir.
also do like the functionality and ease of use, and they seem like pretty cool radios. So, Mark, you got a little bit of time to join us over on the Discord and have some fun?
Yeah, I got a good, I got about 15, 20. My wife's sitting, upstairs going, okay, you said you could do this. You're going to do this. What's next?
Josh guy to talk about radio.
Dude, it's so
How
fun.
does this work?
It's totally fun. No,
Thank
I'm having
you,
a blast. We got to do it again. I mean, if there's something relevant that we can do again that, hit you, I still think that the gateway is really relevant, but that's me. We just have to figure out how to pull, Ray does too, about how to pull that, whatever, the emergency support services back into the gateway and then back out to other users on different, basically different protocols and bands.
Radio waves is harmful.
Scout 75, thank you for the super chat. Just wanted to hear the sounder, and I want to say thank you to the carries for the super chat earlier. Mark, there was one question: can ICOM public safety UHF radios interop with Motorola systems? I have no idea.
Absolutely, yes, absolutely, yeah, 100%.
There you go, Alex.
We've got VHF, UHF, 700, 800, 7800. We've got conventional, we've got phase 1 trunking, phase 2 trunking. So that's TDMA and FDMA. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So we're already on several systems.
Yeah. Larry asked, did these radios have built-in batteries, or are they removable? Can you carry a spare battery? Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
They're removable batteries that can be charged in the cradle. So you could have a hot spare at any time in the cradle and swap it out if you want to. Okay, we're going to hop over to the Discord. I'm going to wrap up the show here, Mark. I do a little thing to close it out. So if you actually want to just hop over to the Discord and start chatting with people, I'll be over in a little bit to have some fun over there. So thanks again, Mark. Appreciate you for coming out.
Let's do it again.
All right, we will. All right, everybody, thank you so much. I can drop this chat. I want to remind everybody, the Discord after chat is all radio stuff. We will, of course, talk MURS while we have Mark in the chat. He's got about 15, 30 minutes, he said. So please avail yourself of that if you have questions about the MURS systems, ICOM radios, whatever, that are in the land mobile space. I'm kind of just dipping my toe into this because I find that some of these features are really interesting for an emergency preparedness type setup. I think we came up with 3 of them. We figured out Bob. We figured out intrusion alarms for have the radio fall over and there's your trip alarm if somebody's entered your property or whatever. And the numbers go on, or just put it on my kid. He falls out of a tree. Now I know. Super cool. So really cool stuff that is outside of amateur radio, right? We're not doing that with the ham radios, but I think this is really fun stuff, particularly if you're thinking about having a comms plan and engaging with your neighbors. I'm going to wrap things up by saying a big thank you to our patrons. Thank you, Patreon supporters. We're coming up to the end of the month here, which means there's going to be a new Patron Picks episode, which is always the first weekend of any month. You guys pick that, and these are our producer patrons that are the ones that do it. So if you'd like to join the ranks to help out support the Ham Radio Crash Course, we've got multiple Patreon levels, and I think I really appreciate it. It makes a lot of this what we do possible. But again, reminder, the way it works is it's literally a poll with like 30 options of different show topics that we can, have all kinds of fun with different things there. So make sure you, I'm going to close out Mark for a second. There you go. So make sure you join us over on the Patreon if you haven't already, if that helps, if you want to support, I'd appreciate it. All right. Let's see. And Vaughn, I don't know who you're talking to. I'm not Jason. I'm Josh. So again, thank you to the patrons for everything. All right. Again, Discord link is in the description. Join us over there for any questions you have. Excuse me. Mark will be joining us, and it should be a lot of fun. All right. Let's see. I think we got most of the questions. I hope everybody's migrating over to the Discord. I'll actually test these. That actually might be fun. Maybe I'll put these on a kid, and I'll throw them around a little bit and see if they activate. Throw them in a pool. We'll see what it does when it's in a pool. cool. I may have to hang on to these ones for a little bit, Mark. All right, guys, I'm going to head over to the Discord. I'd appreciate it if you join me over there, and I'll talk to you shortly. I'll be live streaming to Twitch on the Ham Radio Crash Course Twitch channel if you'd like to hear the live after chat in its full beauty, all of the people, wonderful people in the room having fun. Anyway, I will talk to you later. 73. $25. I'll tell Jason for you. I like that. Solving problems, figuring out new use cases for cool radios. That's what we're all about here. Thanks for joining us. Really do appreciate it. And I'll catch you on the Discord.